Hello? Who is this? Wait, why do you sound like me? Silence. Sudden click. The line goes dead. On a quiet night in October, Allison Graves received a phone call that should never have existed. It was late, just past 2 a.m., when her phone lit up with an incoming call from an unknown number. At first, she ignored it, but when it rang again, same number, same time, for the third night in a row, curiosity got the better of her. She reached for the phone and answered. What she heard on the other end wasn't a stranger. It wasn't a wrong number. It wasn't even a voice she could explain. The voice on the line was her own, speaking, whispering, warning. And then, just as quickly as it had come, it was gone. This is where the story begins. A single call, a voice that should never have been there. And for Allison Graves, the moment she answered was the moment everything changed. A phone screen displaying an incoming call, a single word on the caller ID, unknown. The ringing continues. A woman's breath is heard, uneasy. She hesitates, then swipes to answer. Silence. Then the voice, the same as hers, whispers, "Don't answer the door." Click. The call ends. A phone call is a simple thing, a voice from one line to another, a person on the other end, a connection, ordinary, expected, harmless. But what happens when the person calling is you? October 17th, a quiet apartment. A young woman, alone. Her name is Allison Graves. She isn't prone to paranoia. She doesn't believe in ghosts, conspiracies, or strange occurrences beyond what can be explained. If someone had told her that night would be the beginning of something unexplainable, she would have laughed. But at 2:33 a.m., her phone rang, and everything that followed defied reason. At first, it was easy to dismiss. A wrong number, a late-night prank. But the unease lingered. There was something about the voice, familiar, too precise, too close. And then, the next night, it happened again. This time, she listened. Her recorded voice plays again, distorted slightly. "Allison, listen to me. Whatever you do, don't open the door." Fear, when it comes suddenly, is not always recognized for what it is. The mind rationalizes. It searches for explanations. But Allison, she knew something was wrong, because how do you explain hearing your own voice, warning you about something you don't understand? She tried to ignore it. She told herself it was a prank. But what happened next made that impossible. There are rules to the ordinary. A phone rings, a call is answered, a conversation begins. Simple, expected. But when the phone calls itself, when the voice on the other end is your own, those rules begin to break. October 18th, the second night in a row, Allison Graves wakes to the sound of her phone vibrating on the nightstand. The first time, she ignores it. The second time, she checks the number. Unknown. The third time, she answers. A moment of silence, then a distorted whisper plays over the phone. Indistinct, fragmented. The call abruptly cuts out. Fear is rarely instant. It doesn't always come in the form of a scream or a shadow in the dark. Sometimes it lingers, a feeling that sits just beneath the surface, waiting. Denial is a powerful thing. A mind searching for explanations will find them, until it can't, until the evidence is undeniable, until the fear becomes real. The following night, the screen flickers, casting an eerie glow. This time, the call isn't from an unknown number. It's from her own, Allison Graves, calling herself, a call that should not exist. The vibrating intensifies, the screen pulses as if alive, and then, without her touch, the call answers itself. At first, she thinks it's a malfunction, a trick of technology, but deep down, she knows this isn't a prank, this isn't a mistake, because on the other end of the call, something is waiting, and now it knows she's listening. Fear has a way of settling in quietly. It does not always arrive with a scream or a sudden shock. Sometimes it is a whisper, a presence, a realization that something is wrong, but you don't know what. For Allison Graves, that realization came the moment she saw the name on the screen. A call from yourself is an impossibility. It is a contradiction. Phones do not dial themselves. Numbers do not call their owners. But there it was, the screen vibrating in the dark, waiting. A moment passes. Then the call answers itself. She does not speak. She does not breathe. She only listens. Faint breathing, slow, uneven, not static, not a recording, something listening back. The human mind is conditioned to seek logic, to rationalize a prank, a glitch, a crossed signal. But logic could not explain what happened next. The breathing shifts. It changes. It becomes her own. A perfect match. Not similar, not close, exact. The same rhythm, the same cadence, as if she were hearing herself in real time from the other end of the line. Allison, don't move. She does not move. She does not blink. The voice is her own, but the tone is wrong. Flat, hollow, empty, like an echo of herself, stripped of all emotion. She glances toward the phone screen, but the screen is different. It's no longer displaying a call interface. There is no timer, no end call button. Just a blank screen, glowing white, and within it, a reflection that does not match her own. The reflection blinks, but she does not. The mind reacts before reason can catch up. A jolt of adrenaline, the instinct to flee, to turn away, to throw the phone across the room. But she doesn't move, because in that moment she isn't sure what will happen if she does. Then a sound, a soft creak, not from the phone, from the other side of the room. A presence is not always seen. Sometimes it is felt, a shift in the air, a pressure at the base of the spine, a certainty that you are no longer alone. The reflection on the phone remains, watching, unmoving, and then, slowly, it begins to smile. A flicker, a distortion. The phone vibrates violently in her hands, the sound escalating. The screen, warping, stretching, as if the reflection is trying to pull itself free. The smile widens, too wide, the eyes, too dark, and then, click, the phone call ends, the screen goes black. Silence crashes down like a wave, but the feeling does not fade, the presence does not leave. And from the darkness of the hallway, another sound, closer this time, a slow, deliberate step. The call was over, but the voice was not. There are moments where reality no longer feels stable, where the familiar bends, fractures, and you realize that nothing, not even yourself, can be trusted. For Allison Graves, that moment had arrived. Her instincts told her not to move, to stay still, to listen. But the body does not always obey the mind, not when fear takes hold, not when every nerve is screaming that something is wrong. The A flicker, a brief, imperceptible movement in the darkness beyond the doorframe. A shadow, there and gone in an instant. Her breath catches. She isn't alone. She should turn on the lights, she should reach for her phone, but fear is a strange thing. It doesn't always let you act rationally. Instead, it paralyzes, it waits, it forces you to listen, to notice the things you might have ignored before. The floorboards, the weight of something shifting just beyond the doorway. Then, another sound, software subtle, a barely audible whisper, not from the phone this time, from the darkness itself. Allison. The name, her name, spoken so gently, so intimately, that for a split second it almost feels safe. But that safety vanishes the moment she realizes it is her own voice, not an imitation, not a distortion. Heron, and it is coming from the hallway, A shadow moves, closer. The mind rejects what it cannot explain. It searches for logic, but there is no logic here, no reason for what is happening, only the undeniable certainty that she is not alone. She does not move, she does not breathe, but the shadow does. Another step, closer, and then an unmistakable sound, the soft, deliberate vibration of her phone. But the phone is still on the nightstand. The screen is dark. It isn't ringing. The sound is coming from the hallway. She does not check. She does not dare, because she knows. If she looks, she will see it. The whisper returns, curling around the silence like smoke. Answer it. A choice, a test. There is no reason, no explanation. Only a question, unspoken but clear. Will you listen? The silence stretches. Then a shift. The air grows heavier, the walls seem closer, and slowly the shadow moves away, back into the darkness, melting into it as if it had never been there at all. For the first time in minutes, she exhales. The air in the room feels lighter, the silence less suffocating, and for a fleeting moment she dares to believe that whatever had been there is gone. Then, the phone screen lights up. 2:33 a.m. An incoming call. She looks, and her stomach drops. Not her number this time. Not unknown. A single word displayed on the screen. Behind you. A flicker. A shift in the reflection of the screen. And then, before she can turn, before she can even scream, everything went black. There are stories that end, that wrap themselves neatly in explanations and understanding. And then there are stories like this, stories that do not end because the question remains, what really happened that night? A case was opened, an investigation launched, but some questions have no answers, and some calls leave no trace. A glitch, they called it, a technical failure, an anomaly in the system. That was the official conclusion, and maybe that's all it was. But then, at exactly 2:33 a.m., the phone lights up. No vibration, no ringtone, just a single notification, a message, 2 words, still here. Some calls never stop, some voices never leave, and some stories are still being written. What do you think happened that night? Have you ever received a call you couldn't explain? Let us know in the comments below. And if you never want to miss another terrifying story, hit that subscribe button, because sometimes the scariest stories aren't just stories at all.